Hi, this is Chrissy Miles, and you're watching The Chrissy Miles Show, where I teach you how to take eternal truth and produce extreme results. In today's episode, I'm going to teach you why your relationship isn't working. So oftentimes we try to get in relationships, and after a period of time, we don't understand why it's not working. We oftentimes try to change ourselves. We try to influence the other person. We try to ask ourselves, am I doing the right thing? It's like we cannot figure out what is going wrong. And yet the relationship that we thought we were supposed to be in is not really producing what we would hope or desire or go in the direction that we want it to go. I've experienced this a number of times before I met my husband, and I want to show you today how you can protect your relationship, specifically protect your relationship with God, and make sure that you're going in the right direction for any new relationships you try to develop, whether romantically, friends, with your parents, with your coworkers, whatever the case. You need to go in the right direction. You have to have God as your source in order to do it. Here's step number one. So often we have difficult time in our relationships because the world has not really shown us what love is supposed to look like. There's so many false definitions of love, and when you stop and try to apply all the things that you have inadvertently learned over the years, maybe you watched your parents who did not show each other the kind of love or respect that you really want to bring into your relationship. We've all been influenced by the media over the years, where there's this perfection that we're looking for that the world tries to offer us. But when we apply the steps that the world says we should apply in order to achieve that relational perfection, everything falls apart and we get confused. Well, here's the reality. The world doesn't really define love the way God defines love. So you have to understand, how is love really defined by the creator of love himself, God? When you understand how God defines love, what that allows you to do is it allows you to evaluate your relationships and ask yourself, is this relationship really producing love? And what I mean by that is, if it's really producing love, the kind of love that lasts, the kind of love that makes you feel like this is really going to go somewhere special, it has to line up with what God says about it, which means that there are certain principles, which I'll talk to you about in just a moment, that have to be in place in order for love to really be made manifest or come to pass. So let's talk about those here next. Here's step number two. Love was designed to be unique. Love was designed to be special. And I know that this goes against so many contrary opinions, again, to the way that we were all taught or the way that we might have been raised. But when you constantly put yourself in positions where you share your love with too many people, eventually you get to a place where you're trying to establish a good relationship on new ground, but because you have so much history and so much baggage of trying to share love where it wasn't really the appropriate place to share, or you've given love too much away, you're going to have a difficult time recovering from that. So inasmuch as you can put the brakes on right now in your life, no matter where you've been or no matter what your background or history is, it doesn't matter. From this point forward, make yourself a promise that you are not going to give your love away until you are 100% convinced on a deep spiritual level that this is the right person to invest yourself in. You know, I have that same story in my relationship. After having had so many bad relationships prior to meeting my husband, I had made a decision between me and God where I said, you know what, I don't want to get into the same problems that I find myself constantly falling into, where I think that this person is going to treat me with respect, or I think this is going to be a great long-term relationship, and all of a sudden things just start falling apart, or I find myself totally changing into somebody that I'm not. And I basically said to God, I am not going to give my love away to anyone unless you show me that this is the person who's going to commit to me for the rest of their lives. Now, you might think that that is impossible or there's no way you could ever do that, but trust me, it is possible to set yourself up in a new pattern with a new way of life, a new perspective that basically trusts God to show you and guide you to the right relationships. And here's the beauty of it. When you set yourself up in a position to protect your heart, which is essentially what this is, and you refuse to give your love away to just anyone, there's nothing wrong that happens out of that. That's a great place for you to establish something that could be something great in the future. What I mean by that is that when you hold your love to yourself and you allow God to guide you on where you should allow that love to go, or where you should allow that love to be directed, the beauty of it is that you stay protected in the process. And at varying points within a relationship as it develops, if you protect yourself and you slowly give your heart away, you're going to have a greater chance and likelihood that that relationship can go in the right way instead of opening yourself up right away. I hear so many stories of people who meet and they say, oh, we just hit it off so well. We have so many things in common. We stayed up all night long talking about everything about ourselves. Well, that's a prime example, again, of what the world would suggest in order to get to know someone. But that is a prime example of how people give away too much too soon. So you have to protect your heart. You have to guard certain things about who you are. And in fact, why would you want someone who you were interested in building a long-term relationship to tell you everything about them right at the start? You don't want to do that. You want to discover someone slowly through experiences, through conversations, through intimacy. And when someone throws themselves all over you, whether emotionally or physically, right from the start, it's kind of an indication that that person doesn't really know who they are, and maybe I should issue a little bit of restraint in moving forward in those kinds of relationships. Here's step number 3. You have to remember that love always demonstrates. One of the most famous passages of the Bible is John 3:16, where it says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever would believe in him would not perish but have everlasting life." In that small verse that so many people have heard of before, it says that God demonstrated his love by giving. Love always demonstrates. Now, where people get into trouble in demonstrating love is they try to love people out of a place of emptiness. And here's what I mean by that. If you don't have yourself tied into the source of all love, meaning God himself. God is the source of love. If you're not connected to the source of love, then that means the kind of love that you are trying to demonstrate to your partner or to the person that you're interested in, it will eventually run out. And there will be days where it's difficult to love and your personality on a negative sense will come through. There will be days when your partner will have a rough day. And if they're not tapped into the source of all love, your relationship really doesn't have much hope. So where you can count on seeing God's love continually demonstrated in your life towards your partner or from your partner towards you is when both people are totally connected to God's love. Do you know what that means? It means that apart from you, they have a life. Apart from you, they have a relationship with God that's unique between them and God. You want the same thing for your life as well. Why? Because if you're only trying to love and demonstrate love through your own strength and your own effort, what happens when your strength runs out? What happens when you have a bad day? What happens when you fall short in some way and you're not able to be that kind of perfect person that you once were when maybe you first met? What begins happening is that the relationship starts deteriorating. It starts breaking down and there's frustrations that develop. The minute frustrations develop, you start developing offenses. You hold on to those offenses. And the next time a frustration happens, you tend to bring up all the offenses from the past and lay them all out of the table again. And then you argue about that all over again until before long, you're having more interactions with your significant other that are arguments and disagreements than you are the intimacy and the love. Why? Because most people try to establish a relationship with someone else based upon a human kind of love. If you want your relationship to last, if you want to experience the kind of future that is a long-term commitment with a person who can love you unconditionally, you have to know for yourself that you're connecting into an eternal type of love, and you have to be convinced that that other person is connecting into that eternal internal type of love as well, because there will be times when the relationship will be challenged. But if you can trust God in the other person, and you can trust God in yourself to bring you both to a place of putting down your own personal preferences, putting down your own personal wants and desires in order to love the other person by demonstrating that kind of love, that's the kind of love that will last forever. For more tips on why your relationship isn't working, I want to invite you to download a free MP3 called Extravagant Love. Here's where I'm going to show you how to tap into the love of God so that you can develop a foundation for experiencing love with other people. Follow the link in the description. Here's step number 4. Love is designed to be exclusive. Now, you might think that this is going to go in the direction of like extramarital relationships or things like that. And although that is certainly an issue, I want to talk to you a little bit more about how you spend your time. Because how you spend your time is a pretty clear indication of where your heart is, the desires of your heart, what you value, so to speak. So if love is to be exclusive, which the Bible defines it as exclusive, you have to ask yourself, how are you prioritizing your time to demonstrate to your loved one that you really care about them, that you really love them? If you're telling someone that you love them with your words and your speech, but you're not demonstrating it by prioritizing time with them, or you're not demonstrating it by prioritizing the things that matter to the other person, you're actually showing that person that your love for them isn't exclusive, that you don't hold them in the kind of value or high regard that would cause you to focus your attention a little bit less on all the things that you want and more on building into the relationship. Now, I'm not saying that you have to give up your hobbies, you have to give up the things that are important to you, but over time, when offenses come in relationships, it's very easy for the relationship to kind of drift. You've heard of, guys spending tons of time at the bar or at sporting events or watching sports on TV. Girls, you need your girls' night, where you're away from the kids and you're just, taking off all of the responsibilities off of your shoulders for a time being. Well, there's nothing wrong with that periodically, but what starts happening is that if that kind of activity goes on for too long, usually it's an indication that something's wrong, and that thing is usually sort of on a personal level that bleeds out into your relationship, but also it's an indication that you've kind of lost that desire to make your relationship with your significant other exclusive, meaning that you're not going to share your time either with other people to the same degree that you are developing your relationship with your significant other, or you're going to cause your relationship to remain in a place where it kind of can come and go. So what I mean by that is, maybe you'll prioritize it on some cases when it's beneficial to you, but then other times you're going to prioritize the things that you want. That's not really the way to build a relationship, because love is exclusive. It means that you're going to prioritize your relationship, the building of your relationship, the time spent, the intimacy with one other person. And you can't allow other things, of course, not other people, but you can't allow other hobbies, you can't allow your work, you can't even allow your kids to get in between that exclusivity that you were designed to have with your significant other, because it starts reprioritizing things and making your relationship off balance. So if you want your relationships to go well, sometimes people think that making your relationship exclusive means, okay, I'm going to put God at the top, and then I'm going to put my spouse or my significant other next, and then I'm going to put my kids and then my work. Well, if anything is going to go right in your relationship, it all has to go right simultaneously. Because if you say, well, I'm going to make my relationship with my spouse, really great, and then I'm going to neglect my children or I'm going to neglect my job, it can't happen that way. If one thing goes well, everything has to go well in order to give you the quality of life that you're looking for. So exclusivity doesn't mean that you focus attention to the chagrin or to the downplaying of other things. It simply means that the focus is on bringing up your relationship into a realm where not only is the relationship going well, but you're receiving so much from those relationships that it is pouring out into other aspects of your your life. If your relationship with your people at work causes your marriage to suffer, then the exclusivity is missing between you and your spouse. If your relationship with your kids, if you're a woman, causes your spouse, your husband to feel like you're not giving him any attention, then the exclusivity that relationship needs in order to thrive is missing, and you're not going to be happy. But for your relationships to go well on all planes, you have to keep the exclusivity, which means that you're not allowing other people or other things to get in between you and your significant other. Thanks for watching today. I hope you enjoyed these tips about why your relationship isn't working. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up button. And if you know somebody who is constantly struggling with relationships that don't work, share this video with them. It might be exactly what they need to get started in a different direction. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you subscribe to this channel for new tips each Tuesday where I teach you how to get more out of life. Thanks for watching.